Welcome, students. Let us learn our next lesson in English, The Necklace, Part 1 and Part 2 by Guy de Maupassant. Let me tell you something about the author of the lesson. His name is Henri René Albert, Guy de Maupassant. He was a 19th century French author, remembered as a master of a short story form and as a representative of the naturalist school who depicted human lives and destinies and social forces. He was born on 5th August 1850 in France and died on 6th July 1893 in France. He had written many books like The Horla, Two Friends, and many more. The necklace is the one of them which was an immediate success, and he later included it in his short story collection, Tales of Day and Night. This story had been later adapted to films and television several times. The passage starts from Mathilde was a pretty girl on page number 18 till page number 20. That's impossible. Full part 1. The story of Mathilde took place in France several hundred years ago. The story starts with Mathilde, who was a pretty, charming girl. She was born in middle class, who desperately wished that she were wealthy, as she cannot fight her fate. So she married a person who works as a clerk, minor official in the Ministry of Education, and lived in a flat. Because she had no other means of becoming known, loved, or be wedded to an aristocrat, that is, nobleman. She dressed very plainly because she was not able to get more beautiful dress due to money problem. She was sad that she had shabby, poorly furnished house. All these things the other women may not be bothered or even concerned, which tortured her. She had a dream of having a grand big mansion with huge rooms and small rooms full of fragrance for afternoon chat with close friends. With all her dreams, yet she had no wealth, no jewelry, no riches, and no royal and good looking dress. She wanted charm, attractiveness, beauty, glamour. She wanted everyone to be jealous of her beauty, looks. She wanted to be in demand, to be sought after. She had a rich schoolmate to whom she always avoided visiting because after visiting her, Mathilde feels very regret, despair, hopelessness, pain, unhappy because she is not wealthy like her friend. One evening, her husband brings home an invitation to a ball. He thinks his wife will be excited to attend such a fancy party, but when she tore open the envelope and drew out a card and saw the invitation that the Minister of Education and Madame Georges Rampono request the pleasure of Monsieur and Madame Loisel's company at the Ministry on the evening of Monday, January 18th. Monsieur and Madam means just like Mr. and Mrs. in English. Instead of being happy as her husband expected, she threw the invitation on the table. She was sad and started muttering that, "What do you want me to do with that? And what do you expect me to wear if I go?" The husband did not even think of it. He stammered and said, "Why, the dress you go to the theatre in. It seems very nice to me." The husband suggested to wear the dress she used to wear while going to the theatre. The husband stopped, was stunned, shocked, distressed, in pain, sorrow to see Mathilde crying. He stuttered, hesitated, and asked her, "What's the matter? How much would a suitable dress cost?" This shows that how a husband becomes helpless in front of crying wife and has to get a new dress for her. Mathilde thought for a moment and started calculating, computing the cost of the dress, and wondered that what amount she could ask that would be approved without an immediate refusal. She asked hesitatingly, reluctantly, I don't know exactly, but I think I could do with 400 francs. Means जो मिल रहा है ले लो, बाद में देखेंगे. Francs is the basic monetary unit of France, Belgium, Switzerland, and many countries. The husband was little disappointed, turned little pale because he had been saving the exact amount to buy a gun for a hunting summer in a country near Nanterre with a few friends. Nanterre is a place in France. This area is home to Paris and has a multi-use stadium, dome buildings, and has an urban park made from recycled material is a present day scene. But still, he loved his wife very much and sacrifices his gun for her. However, he said that he will give the money, but she has to be sure that she buys really a beautiful dress. The day of the party came near. Mathilde seems anxious, sad again, though she got a new dress for party. Her husband asked her why she was acting strange for the last 3 days. She replied that she had no jewelry to wear, not even a single stone, means not a single gem or jewelry. On this, her husband suggested to wear flowers, which was in trend at that time. She was not convinced. This shows that she was not contented with what she had. The next day, she went to her friend's house and shared her sorrow. Madame Forestier, Mathilde's friend, went to her mirrored wardrobe, took out a large box, brought near Mathilde, and opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, that is Mathilde, choose, my dear. Here is a friend in need is a friend indeed. It was like a lottery for Mathilde, as first she saw bracelets, then a pearl necklace. She went on trying jewelries in the mirror and did not like anything, as she kept on asking, you have nothing else? On which Madame Forestier said that she has, but she doesn't know what Mathilde wants. Suddenly, Mathilde discovered a black satin box with an excellent, magnificent, superb diamond necklace. She was so happy. Her heart began to beat very fast. Her hands trembled as she took it. She wore it round her neck and stood, lost in bliss, euphoria, ecstasy, as she looked at herself. Then she asked hesitatingly that, would you lend me this? Just this? Mathilde's friend replied yes. And Mathilde hugged Madame Forestier with great joy, that is, rapturously, and ran with the necklace. The day of the party arrived. Madame Mathilde Loisel was looking very beautiful, with new dress and a diamond necklace, than all other women. She was gracious, smiling, elegant, full of joy. She danced fiercely, wildly, over the victory of her beauty, and had a gala time, forgetting everything else. She was floating in a cloud of happiness. Both husband and wife left the place about 4 o'clock in the morning. They couldn't find any cab on the street. They have to walk down towards the Seine. It is a river in France. Then they found one cab, which dropped them at their door in Rue des Martyrs. And sadly, all was over for her. The party, the time, everything. She wanted to have a final look of herself in front of the mirror. But suddenly she shouted loudly. Her husband asked her, what is the matter? She turned towards him in panic and said, I have, I have, I no longer have Madame Forester's necklace. He stood up in shock, worried, distraughted, and said, what? How? That's impossible. When you borrow something from somebody, it is your responsibility to take care of it, or else you have to pay for it. Let's see what Mathilde does in the next part. The passage starts from They Look in the Folds on page number 22 and ends on 500 francs at most on page number 24. What do you do when you lose something? Yes, even the Loisel couple did the same. They searched the necklace in every fold of her dress, even in the folds of her cloak. Cloak is an overgarment that hangs loosely from the shoulders and serves as the same purpose as an overcoat. But they could not find it. Then Mr. Loisel, the husband, asked Mathilde that was she sure that the diamond necklace was in her neck when she left the hall. Mathilde said yes. I touched it in the hall at the ministry. Mr. Loisel said that if it would had fallen on the street, they would had heard the sound of fall. Then it must be fallen in the cab, and asked his wife about the number of the cab, which she did not take down. They both stared at each other, stunned, speechless, confused, and shocked. At last, Mr. Loisel put up his clothes once again. This is because after coming from the party, he changed and asked, I'm going back. He thought of walking over the old route where they walked to see if he can find it. After he left, Mathilde was in her ball dress whole night and her mind was blank. She did not know what to do. Her husband returned at about 7 o'clock in the morning, but empty handed. He found nothing. He went to police, to the newspaper's office, to put an advertisement to offer a reward. He also went to the cab companies. He went everywhere he can find the tiniest glimmer of hope. That is, faint, very less hope. She waited all day in despair, pain, at this horrible, grim, frightful disaster tragedy mishap. Mr. Loisel returned in the evening, hollow, which he felt from inside, vacant, pale figure, mute, weak, upset, as he found nothing. He told his wife that now she must write to her friend that she has broken the clasp, clutch, buckle, clamp of her necklace and she is having it mended, fix, repair, which will give them some more time to search for it. Here he is telling his wife to lie, but this was only to get some more time. Mathilde wrote as he dictated. At the end of 1 week, they lost all hope, and Mr. Loisel, who suddenly looked aged due to worry, tension of the lost necklace, and running to each and every place where he could think he can find it back, but sad he did not find it, and said his wife to think how they could replace the jewel. And now, so they went from jeweler to jeweler looking for a necklace like the other one, recalling the design, pattern of the necklace from their memories. Both were sick with grief, sorrow, pain, and anguish. Finally, in a shop at the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which looked exactly what they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs, but they could have it for 36,000 francs, maybe after bargaining. So they convinced the jeweler not to sell it for 3 weeks, and they made necessary arrangement that he would take it back for 34,000 francs if the other necklace was found before the end of the February. Mr. Loisel has 18,000 francs which his father left for him, and the rest he would borrow, and he did borrow. He gave notes means he asked for monetary support from the people he knew. He made ruinous, disastrous, destructive agreements. He dealt with every type of money lender to raise funds for the necklace as they wanted desperately. Then Mr. Loisel went to the jeweler and kept 36,000 francs on the counter and bought the necklace. Finally, Mathilde gives it to Mrs. Forestier, who doesn't even look at it. Now onwards, Mathilde's life changes dramatically. She knew the horrible life of poor, but she did her bit bravely. The dreadful debt has to be paid, and she will pay it. They asked their maid not to come for work in their house, as Mathilde did all her work at home, to save money. They changed their lodgings, apartment. They rented a garret, that is, small uncomfortable room at the top of the house under the roof. She understood the drudgery, chore, hard work of daily household work, the odious, disgusting work of the kitchen. She washed dishes, the dirty linen, that is, beddings, clothes, etc. She took the garbage bin every morning down to the street to empty it and carried water upstairs, halting at some places to take a deep breath. And she was dressed like a common woman. She led a life of common person, woman, who bargained in market, quarreled sometimes, and also faced insults over pathetic, miserable sous, means a French coin of low value or very small amount of money.
Every month they had to pay some loans. Renew means resume after some time, and sometimes ask for more time to repay. Her husband worked extra. Every evening he worked as an accountant for a tradesman and often copy manuscript late at night for 5 sous per page. Not only Mathilde but her husband also have to work hard and repay the debt, as his life of there lasted till 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had to pay off all their debts with interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. Very often she brooded, means thought unhappily, sadly, that how life would be if she had not lost the necklace. How life is changeable, fickle. Very little is needed to be ruined or saved in life. Everything is unpredictable. We never know what will happen. All these stuffs were in the mind of Mathilde.
On Sunday, as Mathilde was walking in Champs Elysees, is an avenue means a broad road in a town or city, typically having trees at regular intervals along its sides. It is 1.9 kilometers long and 70 kilometers wide. She saw Madame Forestier still looking young, beautiful, and charming. Mathilde became emotional. She was confused, demented that. Should she speak to her? Then she decided that she should, because now she had paid all her dues and debts. She can tell her everything. She went near her and greeted her. Mrs. Jean Forrester was astonished to be addressed so familiarly, intimately, friendly, by an ordinary, common woman. As Mrs. Forrester did not recognize her, and she stammered that, "But, madam, I don't know you. You must have made a mistake." On which Mathilde replied that, "No, I am Mathilde Loisel." Mrs. Forrester uttered a cry by addressing her as, "My poor Mathilde," and said, "How you have changed!" Mathilde said that she had some hard times since she last saw her, and many miseries, and all were because of her, that is Mrs. Forrester. Mrs. Forrester was surprised to hear this, and she asked her the reason. Now Mathilde recalls everything and said that the necklace which she borrowed from Mrs. Forrester to wear in the ministry party, she lost it. Mrs. Forrester interrogated on it and said, "What do you mean? You bought it back?" Now, Mrs. Loisel discloses that she had given her back another necklace exactly like it, and it had taken 10 years to pay for it. It was difficult for them, as they had very little. But she was happy that at last it was over. Madame Forrester was shocked, stunned, and asked whether she had bought a real diamond necklace to replace a lost one. Mathilde said yes, they were similar. You didn't notice them? And gave a proud but innocent smile. Madame Forrester moved deeply with this and took Mathilde's hand in her hand and said that my necklace was an imitation, fake. It was worth 500 francs at the most. If you lose something of anybody, bring to the notice of the concerned person because sometimes you get solution to your problem. If Mathilde would have informed Mrs. Forrester, she would come to know about the real value of the necklace and she wouldn't have to suffer a lot. This lesson tells us that be happy with what you have. Everybody gets a spur fixed in the destiny. किसी को भी किस्मत से ज्यादा और वक्त से पहले नहीं मिलता. Or else you will land up in some problem. This evaluation section is based on the lesson Necklace Part 1. Listen to it carefully. Question 1 is true or false, for which you have to write full sentence and then the answer. If you have observed the video lesson carefully, you can find that the question asked occur in proper sequence as they appear in your textbook or video lesson, and you can find the answer in the first half of the lesson. For question number 2, you have to be very alert as all the meaning is in audio or you can find in your textbook also. For question number 3, you have to write the answers based on the above section of the lesson. You have to frame sentence of your own which should be proper. Now, let us discuss. The first question, why did Mathilde weep in misery after visiting her schoolmate? When you watch the video, listen carefully and you will find the answer somewhere in the beginning of the lesson. Listen to it carefully and frame in your own words. Now, for second one is why did Mathilde go to her friend's house? Tell me one thing. When do you need your friend the most? Yes, when you are in trouble or you want to share something which you can't share with your parents. Now, think and write the answer. For the third question, what does Madam Foster's large box contain? You tell me what that large box might be containing. Of course, it is a box. Then it must be having some valuable precious things only. This answer you will get on the second page of your textbook. Now, the question number 4. What was Mathilde's reaction when she opened the black satin box? For this, let me ask you one question. That what would be your reaction when you get something more than you expect? Okay, I think you got the answer. But it is your reaction. We have to write Mathilde's reaction. You can find this answer somewhere on the last page of the lesson. Now, our next question is directed. You have to read the instructions carefully and proceed with it. The first one is one evening her husband said to her, what's the matter? Rewrite as indirect speech. The given sentence is direct speech. Indirect speech should be written in past. Now analyze the sentence. The sentence has a question. It means the husband is asking. Now try to frame it. Second one is I think I could do it with 400 francs. Rewrite using model auxiliary for obligation. We have learned model auxiliary and its function. The word which is used for the function for obligation should be used. For the third one, you have to identify the tense. As you know, there are three tenses: present, past, future. You read the sentence properly and analyze it. And also it comes into which subtype of the tense, that is simple form, continuous form, perfect or perfect continuous. For fourth one, you have to make affirmative sentence, means remove negation. There should not be any negative word, but the meaning of the sentence also should not change. For the fifth one, you have to change the degree into positive and superlative. For positive degree, you must have to follow some rules, like adjective should come between as, then the word of the adjective, and then as. And then you make necessary changes in the sentence. And for the superlative degree, the adjective should come after the article the. Then you make the required changes in the sentence. In question number 5, you have to think from Mathilde's point of view. You have to express her thoughts in your words, as if you know her reaction very well. You can use exclamatory sentence too. Question number 6 is writing skill. In this, the first one is flow chart. The event asked in the question is the turning point of the lesson. These all events you will find in the last section of your video lesson or on the last page of the lesson in your textbook. It is an information transfer. Read the section carefully and make the flowchart with covering all the essential points. The next one is an invitation card. This you can find or see on page number 21 of your textbook.
This is a format of formal invitation where you have to fill all the necessary things asked, like name, who is inviting, for which occasion, on which day, date, place, and time. All these are essential elements of the invitation card. Otherwise, where, when, and how a person will come. And you can see a line at the bottom of the card that is include the request like RSVP. RSVP is a French expression. Répondez-vous plat means the host has requested the guest to respond to say if they plan to attend the occasion. And the other portion of the bottom line is no present please. You can write that too. This is like a fill up. Hope it will be easy for you. This evaluation section is based on the lesson necklace part 2. In question number 1, you have to complete the web diagram as asked. You can read these activities related in searching of the necklace almost in the starting part of the lesson or in the starting part of the video lesson when they realize that they have lost the necklace. In question number 2, observe the video lesson keenly. You will get the words, or you can read the textbook carefully and get it easily. For question number 3, you have to write the answer in your own words with proper formation of sentence. In first question, you should write about the life of the poor people and the thing done by Mathilde as a poor woman, which she hated. For second one, you have to write or give information about why did she feel free to talk to her friend Mrs. Forrester. Only when you are mentally free, you can talk with your friend freely. This you can find somewhere down in the second last page of your lesson. For question number 3, you have to write comparison between Mathilde and Mrs. Forrester about their life, their hardships faced. In question number 4, you have to read the directions attentively. Now let us discuss the sentence given. For the first sentence that appear on your slide, you have to use negative word without changing the meaning of the sentence. In the second sentence given on your slide, you have to use no sooner than. Use no sooner in the first part of the sentence and than in the second part of the sentence with necessary changes in the sentence. For the third sentence, you have to ask WH question to the ununderlined part, that is the part of the sentence which is not underlined, to get the underlined part of the sentence as an answer. So ask all the WH question and get the appropriate question and make the necessary changes required in the sentence. In the fourth sentence, you have to remove question mark. That is, you have to frame a simple sentence or statement without changing its meaning. Question number 5 is a person response question. You have to write your own opinion, answer logically, and support it with valid statements, and write sufficient content. Thank you for listening me.